Morning guys, hope everybody's well. So what I wanted to talk about today was, on Facebook there's been a lot of reminiscing going on. And I think we all do. A particular favourite of mine is, you saw the other day on my page, I did one for Wakelin Masters. I flicked through my camera roll on my phone. You take some photos of during the week. Is always good to remember. Good things and bad things really. And a lot of lessons that you can learn from pictures when it brings back the memory. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to talk to you about a year. Now this year I learnt something that I thought was very important, and it has been very important, and it changed the way I fished. And what I'll do, and you'll see when I go into this a bit more detail what actually happened. And it was the year 2014, and it started when we'd realised that the World Championships was going to be in Escara in Ireland. And I'd been with my dad when I was like a teenager and that, but that were pleasure fishing, bream fishing, pre-baiting and all that shit and all that stuff. So I'd never been round, sort of competition in Ireland. So, and it all started around May time, and there was a feeder only festival in Escara on the Greenway, which obviously they developed just for the World Championships, which was a phenomenal, when you sit and look back, it was a phenomenal thing that they did to get the World Championships there. Tommy Lawton, he was the brains behind it. Great bloke, does a brilliant job down there. And this feeder only festival all the England team went, because obviously the World Champs was in July that year. And if I'm honest with you, yes, I had a clue, yes, I had an idea, but in reality, a country mile off the what I needed to be doing really, and I openly admit that, and I'll never ever forget. There was one particular day, and I'd had a couple of weights. I think one weight I sat on some skimmers, and it was really easy, 20 odd kilo, but that was taking the English fishing side to Ireland, and what I mean by that was. Lots of bait, big feeders, bream fishing as we do over here, that obviously I do quite a lot of, but it wasn't right in Ireland. It wasn't right there, and it's not always right everywhere, because there's other species that you need to fish for. And this particular day, within, I don't know, an hour, blew my peg up. It was gone, finished. And, my sort of head had come off, didn't really know what I was doing. And I can remember, I think it was sort of the last day of the festival, I weren't in contention. And I went and sat with Tommy Pickering. And, we had a brief chat, and, we basically ironed out that I was fishing wrong. And I was fishing, not necessarily to win the match, but I was fishing too positive. And what I mean, like I've just said, too much bait, fishing for like we would for bream, over here. And I come back from there, and it sort of, I sat and had a good think about what he'd said, what I'd learned. And basically, I learned how to manage my peg. And to build the swim up, and to fish for what was in my peg, not what I wanted to catch. And that's very important, because, and I've learnt this, and I sit back and look at it now, and I just think, well, it's obvious. So it's no good fishing with 3 and 4 maggots on if there's roach in your peg. And it's no good fishing with single maggot on if there's skimmers in your peg. So I quickly learned that I was completely a mile off the pace. And I altered a few things, did quite a lot of practicing and different sort of fishing at home, you know, on a lot of roach fishing venues, to get my head round that sort of fishing, because it was completely different. Because you needed to, it was no good catching the last hour, because you know, catching skimmers the last hour, because you missed out on the hybrids and the roach leading up to that. So you had to manage your peg and catch what was in front of you. Like I've said, not what you wanted to catch. Because of course everybody wanted to catch skimmers. They're a bit easier, a bit bigger, and mentality, you think, I wouldn't catch them. But you didn't. You needed to fish for the fish that were in front of you. And that in itself, I believe, has helped me more than anything. So what, you know, obviously in Irish fishing, none of that over in England. You know, you needed. I presume the best way to explain it is I didn't play the percentage game, and in a lot of my other fishing I did. You know, a lot of pole fishing. You know, when you talk about pole fishing, you have different lines and you play a percentage game, and because I'd not done that sort of fishing, I didn't do that, and that was probably the most fundamental thing that I learned at the start of 2014. Which then brings me on to, obviously, the World Championships. It was unbelievable. Obviously, I don't need to go into that too much. We had an unbelievable score over 2 days. The method was right. I was bettering myself. I was fishing better. And the whole team had it sorted. It was, you know, it was frightening. The result was frightening. And of course we were world champions, which was massive. And it went to show that different way of fishing, changing myself and my tactics, was the way to go. And that was all down to Tommy. That was what he drilled into, not just me, into everybody. You know, it wasn't just me that fell short of that, but you could quite easily see. And I've taken that into every single part of my fishing now. So later on that year, I fished the World Pairs with Rob Button. Me and Rob had been travelling. We went in May. He did really well. In May, we went to the World Championships together, and we went on the World Pairs. This was the first time I'd fished the World Pairs. You know, I'd heard so much vibe about it, and obviously, you know, I'd spent most of the year in Ireland, so I thought, right, we might as well go and do it. So, and there's a bit of a, you know, people that know this story will know this. So I went to pick Rob up that morning to get the ferry, and driving up the M6 and going across to Holyhead. For some unknown reason, I don't quite know, I think we got a bit dawdly, and Rob will remember this when he sits and watches it. We were dawdling, and all of a sudden he went, "I think we're going to be late." And I went, "What do you mean?" And he went, "Well, we need to be there in 25 minutes." And I said, "You're joking?" He said, "No." And I looked, and we got something like 30 odd miles to do, and I thought, oh. So anyway, as you can imagine, broke every speed limit going. And just as we pulled up at Holyhead, the ferry was driving out, and we actually, you know, it was just ridiculous really. We actually missed the ferry. Ellen Rainsford managed to get us on the next one, which was, I think, four maybe 5 hours afterwards. So the McDonald's at Holyhead, we actually got his kit out in the car park and started setting up some kit ready for the thing. And we actually got to the digs at something like 9 o'clock at night, which was, you know, it was just a typical. It was a good start to the week, shall we say? And of course, I was reliant on. I was driving. Rob had been before, a cracking navigator as much as he is. So that was it. We actually got there, and we stayed in some digs with a good mate of us both, Sam Merry, and his partner Clive, and it was going to be the start of a great week. So the fishing, for those that have fished the World Pairs, it's over 5 days. A cumulative weight of you both decides the winner. And then obviously the Daiwa Cup then presidents the best individual of the week on their single weight over 5 days. So I can remember it, the first day he got up, there was a practice match the next day on the Sunday, you know, really, really excited. And we had a van draw, and we drew around Ballinamore, which is where we stay. I always stay in Ballinamore. And I was on, it was a place that they'd used that, I can't remember whether they used it in the match, but they used it in the practice match, a place called Kilty Bardham. And basically it's part of Locksker, and it's right at the side of the road, lovely place. Got out there and Rob says, "You're here." So Rob dropped me off and he carried on. I think he was at Alton Shore or somewhere like that, I can't remember. I can remember, and I was next to Jens Kosnick. One of the first times I met Jens Kosnick. Obviously we knew each other from the World Champs, but obviously we had a good crack. And this Kilty Bardham was only probably, I don't know, this deep, very, very shallow, 3.5 foot most. You know, and I'm like, in my head island, you know, it's a lot deeper than that. So just fished. Anyway, cut a long story short, was absolutely, you know, didn't really know what to do. And I ended up, took to feeder, caught an odd little roach and took into what we'd learned. But I ended up fishing the pole, and I caught some hybrids and some roach. But also what was quite funny then, another lesson that I learnt for following years, the smallest float I'd actually got in my box was 0.5 gram, and it was flat calm, and you wanted like a 4 with 12, something like that, flicking your rig out. And I caught some of these hybrids shallow and these roach. Anyway, don't know how, ended up winning the section with something like 12 kilos, 13 kilos, and I caught most of them shallow. So that wasn't, but of course, obviously everyone's talking about big hybrids and all that. So that wasn't what perhaps we went to Ireland for. But I sat and thought, well, you know, that's one lesson learnt, smaller floats. So we were digging round. So luckily, I think Rob had a couple of small shanties, something like that. So I whipped them up in case that happened the next day. So we're on to the main match, and which is quite funny what I've just said, it rolls on this. So the first match we were on, went to the draw that night where you got your rotation. I think I've got one here from this year. So obviously you go into the draw, you pay on, and you come out with a rotation draw. This was obviously this year, not that year. And it tells you where you're going all week. Obviously, you know, I want to be here first, here last, you know, you hear all that sort of thing. Nobody knows. So you just go and fish. And obviously it's all about weight. So you haven't really got to, although you do think about winning, it's more about weight than obviously winning. So this particular first day, we were in Ballyconnell. Went to Francis McGoldrick's place, the Angler's Rest, for a breakfast, which obviously I love. And a beautiful breakfast as well it was. And we did the draw, and I was at Brackley, which was a biggish lake, it's like a landlocked lake, and Rob was at this other one called Bernicky. And I think they'd had some weights there on the Sunday at Bernicky. And I get there, and I can always remember it. The first time I'd ever seen the place, and basically it was just like a massive lake really. And I can remember getting my plummet. I set up, weighed it out, and I was next to Darren Davis that day. Darren Davis, great friend. And I said, "What?" And obviously he knows Ireland like the back of his hand. And he says, "If we're going to do any good, Adam, basically we'll be on pole." And I said, "All right, blah blah." So, and I can remember getting a plummet on, going out like that, and it going dunk, and my Olivette sticking out the water. I thought, "Oh, here we go." And it was pretty much the same as that Kilty, but you know, bearing in mind I've never been. So luckily I got this float that obviously I nicked out of Rob's box the night before. Set it all up, beautiful little thing, flat calm again. The weather were incredible that year. And I thought, and I sat and waited, and at the start, cut long story short, there was a lot of pike there. And obviously in previous experiences, when you board it, you always had a quick start, previous experiences in England situations. If you're ball in a venue, you had a quick start, but a lot of the time, if there's pike there, you'd attract the pike. So I sat and waited, and Darren balled it, and I thought, right, so I just cupped 5 or 6 balls in, started on a feeder, had it on bite, and I reckon it was only 25 minutes, and Darren picked the pole up and he went in, catching these cracking fish, unbelievable stamp, and I was still getting odd bite on a feeder, and I just stayed on and kept finding some casting, and I went and I eventually picked it up, and I think I had 2 hours where it was absolutely manic, and I mean it was manic. They're all fish like this, chest, and I quickly learned that you needed to chest them and all that. And what happened was, the pike went to Darren first. And listen, he was on for phenomenal weight. He's a brilliant angler at that sort of game. And the pike had him. And I kept catching, and I was behind. And I reckon I had probably 45 minutes after he was getting piked till they come to me. And it was the same, and it was gone. He was gone, I was gone. And I'm like... And it was like one of them days you thought, carry on like that, it was gonna be mega. Topped up with a few feeder fish late on, and anyway, scales come, and we knew it was close, and I think I ended up just beating him by 100 and 200 grams maybe, but it was great. We had 17 kilos of these roach, great big roach. There were not many fish, but they were, odd hybrid, and this little rig flicking it out, and it was, caster and flicking past your bait and all that. It was mega. Rob picked me up, and I think Rob won the day with 20 kilos. I think Rob won the match that day with 20 kilos of skimmers at this Bernicky. So we had a great start, really. 37 kilos. So on to day 2. Day 2, we went to Church and Connolly's, and same again, never been before. And I drew on Church probably halfway up Church Bank, and I think Rob was middle of Connolly's. So, like, knowing now, 2 great areas, since been going every year since, 2 brilliant areas. And I caught, and somebody said to me that Worms was quite good. Somebody said to me that morning or something. So, thinking what I'd learned and not to blow my peg up quick, and I just built it up, and I ended up catching 25 kilos of these skimmers. All like this, peas in a pod. It was probably one of the greatest days fishing I'd ever had. And I thought, right, frightening. Caught them all on a feeder. 48 metres, I think I fished that day. And you introduced worms a bit later on, got better. And it were, just a great day's fishing. Rob come and picked me up, 20 kilos at Connolly's, and I'm like, is this really happening? So we got another 45 kilos. Looking back on it, we'd drawn absolutely bang on. But obviously I didn't know that then. So the third day, and I actually won the match that day, so Rob had won Monday, I won Tuesday. The next day we were in the north end of Enniskillen. Same again, never even been. And Rob had to guide us in, I got no clue, he was the map reader. And I drew Killades. And I was on about 8 or 10 hours on. And I was next to the lad who was talking with, Sam Merry. Great lad, we had a great laugh. And this particular match, and I still talk about it now, it was incredible. This 48 metre line, because all I did, I just did it from the day before, because I didn't know no different. And I just thought, we'll carry on. And I stick to 3-4 rods up at 48 metres, which is what I do. 3 or 4 rods, and I can remember fishing, and it was so frustrating because of the mussel snags, and there was a lot of the streamer weed then. There was it was the year of the perch. There was millions of perch. I'm not talking rubbish perch. I'm talking like this, and I can remember me and Sam, and we both set pole up, and I just chucked the feeder out and ticked away little bits of bait, kept chucking, kept coming, and it was incredible. I was catching big roach, big perch, these hybrids the mystery hybrids that everyone keeps talking about, and like you get one in and you look at it, you want to put it in your pocket and take it home, and it was just incredible. And I can remember, I'll never ever forget it. I caught this roach, and it was £1. you know, if we weren't more. And I chucked out again, and the tip went round, and I caught another one exactly the same. And I had 3 chucks that were all over £1. And I was like, you know, I was blown away by this. And what was really funny was, the fourth chuck, I caught a massive perch. A perch like £1 again. And I had 3 of them in 3 chucks. And it just went on like that. And I'll never forget, and he'll remember this, James O'Doherty. He was only a young lad then. And he come and sat with me for the last hour. And he was like, "What you got?" And I said, "I ain't got a clue," James said, "but I'm sure, you know, I must have had more than what I had yesterday." And they put the fish on the scales, and they went 27 kilos. And it was one of the, you know, well, you'll see the pictures. I'll put the pictures up as well. And the net of fish was just incredible. And I think Rob was at Crom. That day. I think he caught 10 kilos. So we were still in the massive race, but we got the potential of the worst section to come the following day. The next day. Just going back to day 3. So I won the match on that day as well. So Rob won Monday, I won Tuesday, I won Wednesday as well. So it was like, you know, it was just incredible. So the next day we were at Sker and Hortons. And Sker was one side's shallow, similar to Kilty Borden, and the other side's a bit deeper. And I drew the pump house, and right down the bottom, further than what we go down there now. But it was quite, because obviously there was a few more pairs back then. And I just had a nice down the pole. I caught all these little, what I call brown nose hybrids like this on little worms, single maggot. And Castor was mega as well, but little wormhead was the best. And I caught 14 kilos of these little hybrids, roach, no skimmers. And I ended up with 14 kilos. So it just kept on topping up my weight. And that Hortons was very, very hard. And Rob only come back with 3 kilos. But I think by this time we had quite a steady lead. So we just needed to have a nice day the last day, and we'd have been there. So the last day, and I drew Ross Lock. Now, for those that know Ross Lock, it's the Silty Lake. And Rob was on Horse Island. Rob went to Horse Island, and I was there. And Rob drew MPEG Horse Island, which hadn't been the best. I think he was on Peg 2. He was MPEG. He was Peg 2. It hadn't been the best, and I was in the middle of Ross Lock. And obviously the crack there was Waggler with Buzz Groundmate. I was next to Bob. Sir Bob. Been enjoying your videos, sir. Keep them coming. And we had a cracking day on the Waggler. Just, you know, odd hybrids. Most of them are these like little hybrids that big. Odd roach. But the same again, pike were a massive problem. Moving about, firing a ball of groundbait further. Coming back in on where you could fire some casters. Just, you know, ducking and diving, nicking a few fish. And I ended up weighing 14 kilos that day as well. And basically just topped my weight up. And I think that day Phil Ringer won the lake. He had 19 kilos all on a feeder. Now bearing in mind, nobody ever fished a feeder on there. Everyone's fishing Waggler, but Phil being Phil, just took a little feeder, and he caught 18, 19 kilos of all these, and absolutely obliterated us all. So, and it worked out at the end, and Rob had 7 or 8 kilos. I think it had been really hard. And all that happened was we got back, and we'd worked out that we'd won the world pairs, you know. And I was absolutely the quality of angling, that was incredible. People there, and not only that, I think I had 90 something kilos over 5 days, and I won the Daiwa Cup. You know, so you know I was over the moon with that, to win the Daiwa Cup as well as the pairs. You know, you couldn't beat it. So the moral of this story is, I learned in May about catching what was in front of me from Tommy Pickering, not trying to catch what I wanted to catch. And that, to me, has set the precedent for the rest of my fishing since then. So, you know, I hope that you might go away, you might think about it, and you might think, well, you know, but it brought home to me, because of course when you sit and think about it, if you're not fishing for what's in front of you, you're not going to catch it. like I said at the start of the video, if you've got the wrong upbait on, you will not catch the fish. If you've got the wrong thing in your feeder, you will not catch the fish. So just go away, think about it. If you can apply it to your fishing, brilliant. And thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. And, you know, I'll probably do another one in a few weeks or something. But 2014, big love, great year. And I hope to see you all soon. Cheers, take care, ta-da.